Hello and welcome to Stamp with Julie Baum. Today I'm showing you one of the projects that we made at Stamp Club in August of 2025. We made a really cute card with the Notes and Totes bundle. We're using some of the stamps and a lot of the dies, and I'm going to show you how to make this card. Now some of you might be watching and you were already at Stamp Club and you made one and you are ready to make another one, and this is your refresher course. Some of you might be Stamp Club and you were absent, and so you are watching today's video so that you know what to do with all of those pieces in your packet. If you are not a member of Stamp Club and you're just watching for fun, welcome, and I hope that you will either watch and then create one of these or even craft along with me. All right, we're going to do a lot of die cutting. Let me talk about the pieces and then we will jump into the die cutting and the stamping. So I do have a card base that is Timid Tiger. This is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and I have scored it and folded it at 4.25 inches. I have another scrap of Timid Tiger. This piece is 2 inches by 5.25. This is just for die cutting, and in this case, I did already die cut those pieces. Let me show you what those dies are. It's this die and this die. So this one cuts out the 3 strips. So this is the bottom of the tote bag, and then 2 side accent pieces and a handle, and that's all we need. But that's what this scrap was to show you. So I've already done the die cutting on that one. All right, then I have a piece of pool party cardstock that is 3 inches by 5.25. We're going to put it through the Soft Waves 3D embossing folder and get this, but I am going to show you how to get this piece and how to trim it down. So we'll come back to that. I have 2 pieces of white cardstock, 4 inches by 5.25. These are going to get decorated. I have 2 pieces of Crumb Cake cardstock. They are both 5.25 inches long. One is 1.5 inches and the other is 2 inches. Then I have a scrap of Peach Pie, a scrap of Basic Beige, a scrap of Lemon Lolly, a scrap of Pretty in Pink, and a scrap of both black and some silver paper. The last piece is my piece of Designer Series paper. This is actually a floral print that is out of the Celebratory Sips pack of paper. So you've seen a bunch of my videos perhaps already where I did a lot of cocktail cards. This is from that pack of paper, even though it doesn't have the cocktail print on it, all right? And this has been cut out with this die to give us that piece. And we only need one. When you make the full tote that is a 3D tote, then you need 2, but we only need 1 for this card. Okay, let's go ahead and do some of our die cutting. Then we will do the stamping and then the assembly of this card. This is quite detailed, lots of steps, and so it doesn't really fall in a fast and easy card category, but it's so fantastic. I hope that you will want to make one of these. Okay, for the first thing, actually I'm going to move a bunch of this out of the way because I need to bring in my stamp and my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine so we can do some cutting and some embossing. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is get that pool party piece prepared. So I've got my machine, I have my base plate, my number 1. Then I have the embossing folder, the 3D, Soft Waves 3D. Now, I put a couple pieces of temporary tape on here just so that I would already know right where this is going to go to give me the waves that I want to end up with. It's not critical. You can kind of use it wherever you want, but I did find that this gave me the perfect little wave to follow with my scissors. So I chose that spot and wanted to mark it so I would remember as I'm making more of this card. All right, so this is going to go into my machine, followed by a number 4 plate. And then pushing that through. that is giving me this fantastic design. Okay, so that's how we got it. We are going to trim that down in just a moment. Now I do need to do some die cutting. So back into the Stampin' Cut and Emboss with my base plate, my number 1. Then I need a 2 plate and a 3 plate. And we'll start doing our die cuts. All right, so some of these can be done at the same time, but sometimes that also means you have to tape them into place so they don't move around. So we're gonna do a combination. We're gonna do some things by themselves and some things at the same time. All right, these are pretty easy to do at the same time. I'm going to do one of my little sea snails. And one of my sea stars. This is going to be the sunscreen. And this is going to be the water bottle. All right, so we're going to throw a 3 plate on top of that and run it through. Okay, so we have our little snail. We'll just pop it out. Do use a little bit of care when you're pulling this out. It has a lovely little spiral cut to it, and I've probably cut, I don't know, 10 or 12 of these. One of them I was in a big hurry and I pulled at it and actually ripped it. So be careful to get right in there and make sure that the whole thing comes out. Look at that great texture, but you don't want to rip it. I ripped it just so the center was broken. So you do want to take a little care when you pull that guy out. We're going to need a second one of those. Here's the sea star in peach pie, and we need another one of those. There's our little sunscreen tube. Cute. And here's our pink water bottle. There is a little separate straw that cuts out. We are not using that on our project. Whoops, let me put it here so you can see the little straw here. We're not using it, so I'm just discarding it. With my machine here in the way, I wasn't recognizing that I was a little bit off camera. Let me try to stay here where you can see a little bit better. All right, there's our pink water bottle. Here is the yellow little tube of sunscreen, and we have our first snail and first sea star. Okay, now let's finish our die cutting so we can get this out of the way and everything will be much easier from then. All right, we need a second snail, a second sea star. We also need, where's my pieces? I need both black and silver for the sunglasses. So right now I'm going to do the silver. The sunglass die is all one, and so you end up with the frames and the glasses part all on one die. So I'm only going to put the frame part on the silver. You'll see it in just a moment as I start to crank it through. And we'll wait on the black because we need that same die. We'll have to run it through again. All right, there's that. You can see the silver. All right, we have our second little sea star. And our second snail. And as I say, you do want to go kind of slow so that you don't rip it at the end. And I don't mind at all because the detail, how that cuts out, is super neat. So just to take a little bit of time as you pull that out. All right, then we have this part from our glasses. This part we're not even going to use. That's scrap. This is scrap, although I will tell you that I have made one pair of sunglasses that had silver lenses and black frames. Those are kind of cute too. But the more that I played with this, I realized that I did like the silver frame better. So I'm going to pop it out. These are very delicate, a little bit time consuming, but well worth the effort. All right, there are the silver frames. Okay, we're almost done with our die cutting and we can get back to our stamping and assembly. I think we're on our last cut, and that needs to be with this sunglass die again, this time on the actual glasses part, the lenses, not the frame. This is a generous scrap. I don't really need that much. Oh, you know what? We're going to do one more thing at the same time. I almost forgot. We're going to go back to, where's the rest of my silver scrap? I forgot I needed it. I want there to be a silver cap to the water bottle. And so let me pop out. There was a little silver straw stuck in there. I'm going to pop that out. I'm going to do just the top part of this die on the silver so that we can use it on our pink water bottle. That's going to be really cute. Almost forgot about that little piece. Okay, now we get to see the magic of this, the other part of our sunglasses. Looks like that. Okay, we'll add the silver frames to it. And this little piece that's right here, this is the part we're going to trim down and use on our water bottle. So let's just help that escape from the die. Oh, I have, did you guys see that? I have a total crunched piece in here. Oh my goodness. Didn't even realize that. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Had some scrap in there, and I have to get my little silver piece out. All right, let's get this out of the way. So that I have my desktop back. There's our little silver escapee. Okay. That was funny. That was crunched in there and was just going back and forth under the rollers, and I didn't even know it. I've never had that happen before. Okay. Moving forward. So we used a bunch of dies on this card. As you can see, and I mentioned in another video that it can be a little bit intimidating when you have this many parts and pieces, but don't let it intimidate you. This comes out really, really cute, and it's really not that hard. It just takes a little bit of time getting your pieces. So we have our pieces. All right, we're gonna need that. We don't need these plates. All right, now you guys know why I do this die cutting ahead of time for a lot of these videos, because that can be a little time consuming. All right, we've got all of our pieces. We're coming back to our parts here. We're gonna start with one of these white pieces that was 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we're just gonna put a little bit of blue on this to be our sky. So I have my blending brush, and I have a scrap piece of paper to go under here. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use Balmy Blue for my sky. We want this to be very subtle. So I'm going to pick up my blue, start on the scratch like we do, and then kind of smear it onto my cardstock. The bottom part is going to be our sand, so I don't even have to worry about coming too far towards the bottom. We're going to have a wave on here of the ocean, and we're going to have sand. So this literally is just like the top third of the card. And it doesn't look like a lot, but it's really working, and it is getting a good effect. It doesn't look like a lot when you're just kind of smearing the color until you step back and you realize how pretty it is. So there's our soft blue. We can be done with that. All right, let's go to our wave next. This is the piece that we created with the embossing folder. We're going to trim it down. I want it to still end up being of a nice size for the card, but I do want to trim it down, and I'm going to trim it using my scissors and just following the actual wave that is already pre-printed or pre-pressed into my piece of paper. So I'm going to use my scissors, and I had another one that I did. I was looking for that just to see about how far down to trim. Okay, I don't know where it went, so we're not going to worry about it. So if you look at this, you can see that there's this very nice wave that starts here up at the top and comes down like this, and it's a very thick one. You've got a lot of little thin ones and so forth. That's the one that I'm going to follow. So with my scissors, I'm just going to come in here and trim and just follow that little bit fatter wave. Like so. All right. And as I'm looking at this, I'm trying to remember on your Stamp Club packet if we used Pool Party or if we used Coastal Cabana. So now I'm going to end up with two cards with two different colors of seawater, because I'm not sure if I used Coastal Cabana on this or Pool Party. Right now I have Pool Party, so we're sticking with it. This piece is going to get attached to the card. I want to leave about that much sky. We're going to do some stamping here, so you can just kind of determine about where that's going to go. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take that 2-inch wide piece of Crumb Cake, and with our scissors, just going to make a gentle wavy line. This is going to be the hills kind of our sand. All right, everybody's sand is going to be slightly different, and that's totally fine. And you can have it fatter on this side or fatter on this side. It doesn't matter, but your sand is going to go down here at the bottom of the card. Okay, here's another trick. If you've got it this far, but you want it to come down a little bit more so that more of your water shows, you can completely glue it and then trim it off if you have too much at the bottom. Here, let me bring this down. If you have too much at the bottom like that, you can do that if you wish. All right, let's go ahead and put these pieces on. As you might know already, I have a Saturday series called Simply Saturday, and all of those cards are fast and easy to make. I purposely do not put the very detailed, time-consuming cards on that series, okay? That's not what it's for. But this card, I was so excited to share with you and hopefully inspire you to make one. But I needed to have it separate from Simply Saturday because this is not a fast and easy card. This is a little bit more of a detailed card. All right, so I've got my water on there. And after I put my sand on, I'm going to go and trim that edge off. All right, I have my sand. Before we attach the sand, let's add a little bit of grit and texture to it. So I'm using the sand stamp. and the Crumb Cake ink. And I am going to put a sandy speckle all over this piece. So I'm doing some stamping straight from the ink pad, some stamping without re-inking, so I get a light and a dark. All right, and then while we're at it, we're gonna go ahead and also prepare this piece. This is going to be for the inside of the card. We're gonna do the same thing with our scissors. We're just gonna make a little bit of rounded up and down, some gentle sand hills. And then this one is going to get stamped with our little sand or speckle also. Okay, a lot of texture, I like it. All right, there's our two pieces that we're going to use as sand on the card. All right, the wider one goes on the front of the card. So we're going to go ahead and bring that in here. And why is this looking so long? Oh, because it started out long. This was 5.5 inches and it was only supposed to be 5 1/4, which is what I said in the beginning. 5 1/4 by 2, 5 1/4 by 1.5. But this one I actually left at 5.5. So that's why it needs to be trimmed on this end also. So I'm going to attach that. And I like the positioning on this, the way it came out, flush with the bottom of the card. So I'm not going to have any to trim on the bottom, but I will have to trim that edge only because I grabbed a longer piece of cardstock than I intended to. All right, let's get this one on here. You can see I'm about running out of this glue. I'm going to have to grab a new one before this card is done. All right, I'm lining up the left edge, the bottom edge, and there's my sandy border. At the end, I will show you my other sample card, and now that I'm looking at it, it is Coastal Cabana. So we're gonna get to decide if we like the pool party ocean or if we like the Coastal Cabana ocean. All right, this would be great to stick in my trimmer and just trim. I don't wanna have to dig that out, so I'm just gonna use large blade scissors and cut that down. There we go. All right, we're getting some of the technical stuff out of the way so that we can do all of the decorative stuff. We can put this piece onto our second white piece of cardstock that's going to go on the inside of the card. Since we're gluing the sand on, let's just go ahead and do this one at the same time. Okay, this is for the front. This is for the inside. No water on the inside, just sand. And again, yours will not hang off the edge if you do the measurements. As I said in the beginning, mine is a 1/2 inch too long, so that's why I'm having to trim it off. All right, both this front piece and the inside are going to get some words stamped on them. So let's do that next. I have this stamp from Notes and Totes that says relax and enjoy. I want to stamp just the word relax here on the front of the card. So we have two ways of doing that, couple ways of doing that. We could use a marker to ink up the relax. I feel like the photopolymer does not accept the marker very well. If this was red rubber, it works great with your markers, but not as good with the photopolymer. So we can either try to carefully ink it with our memento, or we might have to mask the rest of this off. I am going to see, I'm going to try it on scratch paper. I'm going to see if I can do it without masking it, just to hopefully make this go a little bit quicker. So I'm looking down through the stamp. I'm only trying to get black ink to the edge of my X in relax and not get any black ink on the and sign. And let's try it on our scratch paper and see how I did. There's not enough on the X. I can see it already. I'm being so careful that I'm not inking up my X enough. Okay, it's not too bad. I'm nervous though, because I've already done so much work on the front of this card that I don't want to mess it up. I'm going to use a Post-it note and mask off the portion of the stamp that I don't want to use right now. That's a big Post-it note. Okay. So I'm going to cover up and enjoy with my Post-it. And then I'm gonna, these are the Post-its that are sticky all over the back, not just the edge. So this is sticky all over it, and it comes in really handy for this kind of application. Now I can look. I'm gonna move it a teeny bit away from my X. That sounds funny, from my X. All right, that should work well. Let's give it a try. I'm going to now ink up my stamp. Now you have to remember to remove this or you're going to have a problem. And that's going to be great. Okay, so I'm going to reposition this right where I did. Now that I've tested it while you watched. Let's hope this time goes as well, right? So this is a little tricky, but it's a nice way to be able to break up the word stamp and use it for two separate spots instead of one long word, one long sentiment. Okay, I'm going to put my relax right here. Like so. Okay, super happy with that. Clean your stamp. I'm cleaning it on my Simply Chamois, which is just outside of your view. This time I'm going to cover up, I'm going to cover up the word relax so that only and enjoy are exposed. I will ink that up. Be sure to peel that off, or you're going to have a big black smudge on your card. And this is going to go on the inside. And this could have been just enjoy, but I did use the and on it this time. I think on the other card I just did enjoy. There we go. All right. We are rolling now. Let's get this put onto the inside of the card. I'm stretching this glue out as long as I can. You know how it is, friends. All right, this is going to go here on the inside. We're going to do some more decorating on the inside, so don't think that we're done with the insides quite yet. All right, there's the inside. Now back to the front. All right, let's put some of our little pieces together like our glasses. So I've got my lenses. I've got my frames that are silver. This is how that's going to go. Cute, cute, cute. If you struggle with putting too much glue on tiny pieces, one thing that you could have done is put some adhesive paper, the sticky backed paper, onto your silver piece before die cutting it. Then you would just peel off the backing and this would be a sticker. I did not want to do that extra step for the video just because of the time involved. So I'm just going to take my chances and add a little bit of glue, being really careful to not overdo it, especially with my glue that's almost out. All right, so I am going to see if I can give myself a little more sunlight. I'm here in Southern California, and we have a big brush fire looming out there. I can see the brown smoke in my sky. That's a shame because we have had the most mild July, upper 80s, lower 90s, crystal blue skies. July was absolutely gorgeous. And here it is August, and we are starting to get more humidity. Today we have smoke from a fire. All right, I've got my glue on there. I'm going to put this down and then slide it into position. To create the glasses. So stinking cute. This is what I'm looking for. All right, that piece is going to be ready for us. Next, I'm going to take the little sunscreen bottle and we're going to do some stamping on it. I have the Sunshine from the stamp set, and I have Daffodil Delight ink. And I'm just going to stamp the sun kind of hanging off the edge of the tube. I saw somebody else do that and I thought it was really cute. So that part I'm copying. Ah, so cute. And then let's also take a yellow marker. You could use your Stampin' Write marker, or you can use a blend, whichever one you want. And we're just going to add some color to the cap. And the end here, the little crimped end of the tube. Super cute. Okay, there's our little sunscreen. We have our pink water bottle. Let's go with that next. And there's a big spray of summery looking flowers in that stamp set. And with this, I'm going to use, I think I'll use Strawberry Slush on the Pretty in Pink cardstock. And we're just going to put an all over print on this bottle. Like so. That turned out cute. And let's glue our silver cap to it. So this is the piece we die cut, the top of the bottle. We only need the actual cap. So I am going to cut right there on, there's a little line there that's already there for you. You can just cut right on that line. And this can go onto the bottle. Get it lined up nice and straight. And there we have that piece. Okay, look at all of our cute little pieces are coming together. Adorable. All right, let's take our little, well, we could do that later. We'll add that afterwards. Now we're going to work on the tote. So we have the piece that we cut out with the die. What I want you to do is just gently fold on the skinny line on the side. Gently fold on the second line on the side. Okay, like that. Same thing over here. Fold on the score line and fold on the score line. For this application, we are not using the bottom of the tote bag at all. So if you want to, you can just remove it, which is what I'm going to do. I can see a little bit better on the back side. So I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to cut right along the bottom, nice and straight. And just remove that piece. We don't need it. Okay, now we're going to add our little handles. This is going to actually go right along that fold line, okay? You have two fold lines, a skinny one and then this kind of wedge-shaped one. This is going to go right along that fold line. You can add your glue to this piece or you can add it to the bag, whichever way seems easiest to you. So we've got two of these that we're going to put on. And I think it's easiest to just fold that under, and then you know exactly where you're going, right up against that folded edge. And lined up from the top to the bottom of the bag. Very cute. You can see how that lined up. Let's do the same thing over here. I've got a little glue on my tweezers. I'm going to have to pull out a little alcohol wipe and clean those up. For Stamp Club this August, we only made 2 projects because they are very time consuming. We typically do 3. But there was so much die cutting and little paper piecing like we're doing that we only did 2. We did the tote bag, the 3D tote, and we're making this tote bag card. All right, there we have those little side accent pieces on our tote. Then we're going to take the bottom piece, and it lines up just perfectly right there. Look at how the tote just comes alive when you add those accent pieces. Let's get that on there. You want it all the way at the bottom. You don't want any of that floral paper sticking out below it. And the edge here is actually where this fold is. See, I'll fold that under and you can see that. And the edge over here is where that is. So that helps you position it right and left. So it's all the way down to the bottom. And it's over to those small fold lines on the side. There, you can see that. Okay, now what we're going to do is put the handle on here, and then we're going to attach this piece to the card. And that's going to give us the basis for putting all of our extra little accessories onto the front of the card. So I've got a little glue on the edges, the little bottom round edges of the handle. And that goes into place. Again, this was die cut with Timid Tiger cardstock. The one that I'm going to show you at the end of this video has the accent pieces and the water bottle done in different colors. Plus, as I found out mid-stamping, did the water in a different color too. So we'll get to compare and contrast. Okay, there's that. Now, we're going to go ahead and stick this on the front panel of the card, all right? We want this to go way over here to the edge, and it's going to kind of sit at an angle like that. And we want to tuck in that tiny flap on the right and on the left. That is the part that's going to get glued. And then as you can see, it's going to leave it kind of popped up. All right, it's not going to be flat like this. It's going to be popped up just a little bit because of the way that we are attaching it with those little folds. So I've got my, once again, my multi-purpose glue. Gonna eyeball the position. And then stick that little folded side. I'm sticking this side down. And I'm going to put this side down, but I'm going to make sure that I leave the bag popped open a little bit. So I'm not pressing the bag flat. So cute. I think some glue could have gone on the bottom here too. I didn't even think about that. I did not put glue on the bottom, but you can. And right now I don't want to lift it off, lift it up to add it. Okay, so we'll give that a second to just kind of dry in place. We're going to position the rest of the cute little pieces that we prepared. So the water bottle is going to go over here. Our little sunscreen is going to go here. We're going to pop it up, so we'll put some dimensionals on it. Our sunglasses, we're going to have hanging off of the bag like so. Look at how cute. Oh my goodness, this is overload. Cuteness over the top. All right, I've got some mini dimensionals here, and I'm going to add 2 of them to my sunscreen. I'm going to go ahead and put the water bottle down now. And that's the end of that glue. I'm not going to keep messing with that one. We'll grab a new one. All right, this is going to go into place, just sitting on the sand, kind of at an angle towards the left. Our little sunscreen is going to go right next to it and kind of in front of it. Then I have my first sea snail that I'm going to add. It's going to just sit down here in the sand, kind of leaning up against the tote. Very cute. Tiny little parts today. Lots of tiny parts. Okay, and then even what I'm doing, it's not strictly critical, but I'm kind of only pressing down this large part of where the shell is curving, and I'm letting this part kind of stay free so that you can appreciate the little 3D look of it. I think that's cute. And then one of our sea stars is going to go on the front as well. We are in the home stretch, getting ready to wrap up the tiny details of this. If you want to, you could put a dimensional on this one. Now that I've already laid it down, I'm thinking that I might like a dimensional under the center of that. Here's our glasses. As I mentioned earlier, I did try the glasses with the silver lenses, and that looked really cool too, and the black frames. But all in all, I came back to this look. All right, there we have the front of our card. We're going to go ahead and attach this to the front, and then we'll move to the inside, finish it, and put our little embellishments on this. Lots of work, right? This took lots of die cuts, lots of piecing, and it is absolutely adorable. Worth all of the extra time and effort today. There are some very cute birds in the Sunrise Sailing Bundle. The birds might be really cute stamped on here. I haven't done that on this card, but now that I'm looking at it, that might be really cute. Okay, on the inside, let's add our second snail and sea star. Just to bring some of that beach from the outside to the inside. And the sea star. We currently have 2 giant sea snails in our saltwater aquarium, and we have a starfish named Peach, and she was out and about today. She was glued to the front of the glass. Really cool when she comes out like that. A lot of times she buries herself in the sand where she's hidden and happy, but sometimes she comes out to say hello. All right, now wait for it, because we're going to do one more thing, and it's totally worth the extra 20 seconds or whatever. And we are going to take Wink of Stella and get some glisten to our little snail. And as you know, Wink of Stella doesn't show up very well on camera, but in person, it's all shimmery and beautiful. I wonder if I can get it to show on here. It's one of those things that just doesn't show up unless you're seeing it in person. So I apologize, but if you have a Wink of Stella, it is totally worth adding the iridescent shimmer to your snail. You can add it to the sea star also if you want to, but I kind of wanted my snail to just pop. So it's got the shimmer. Now, if you want to at this point, you could certainly reach for some more embellishments, either some rhinestones or perhaps some soft blue gems that you could add, maybe just to add a little bit more. At this point though, I just feel like less is more, and so I'm stopping at this point. I do want to show you the other card. This one was color-wise the one that was inspired by the one that I watched, although like I said, I made some changes along the way just to make it easier for me. But this was the first card. Now you can see the Coastal Cabana or the pool party. I think I like the Coastal Cabana. So I will be making more of this card, and I'm going to use Coastal Cabana. This one had pink accents on the bag instead of orange, and I just traded it up and did orange accents and a pink water bottle just for fun. But you can see that they're very, very similar, and it just doesn't matter what colors you add as long as it all coordinates with your cardstock, your designer series paper, and your ink. So that is our second project and final project from Stamp Club of August of 2025. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy stamping!